Well, all right. This is basically the first lesson, I guess. This week is a little bit easy for you guys. I just want you guys to understand what rhetoric is. Critical thinking involves a lot of rhetoric. So, what is rhetoric? Well, basically, it is the strategies for persuasion. Lots of people persuade others. In fact, you do it. And some people think every single thing you do is an act of rhetoric. See, right now, I am trying to persuade you to understand what rhetoric is or something, something like that. You tell a joke, you persuade someone to laugh. Sometimes you're also trying to persuade that person to go out on a date or become your friend, or the list goes on. Even these things that we think are just social can be acts of rhetoric. So we want to persuade people to do things. Sometimes our persuasion or our rhetoric is very persuasive. Sometimes it's not so much, but sometimes it's flawed. And we don't want flaws in our rhetoric. So part of this class is being able to identify flaws in other people's rhetoric, of their logic, their persuasive strategies. And so some of the class is identifying it, and then we want to also write about people's flaws, and then also use rhetoric without using flaws. So use some of the strategies in rhetoric. All right, so the first things we're going to really focus on, though, are the rhetorical appeals. And so these are not what we want to, we don't want to worry about flaws. Well, we don't want to use flaws, but we want our appeals to be sound when we use them. And there's just 3 rhetorical appeals, and that is ethos, which is ethical appeal, logos, which is logical appeal, and pathos, which is emotional appeal. So ethos, first and foremost, let's talk about that. Is, well, if it's ethical appeal, an ethical person should be trustworthy, correct? So if I'm trustworthy, you will more likely listen to me. If I come across as trustworthy, you're more likely to listen and care about what I say. If I come across as an unethical person, an immoral person, someone who is trying to lie, cheat, or steal, then you're probably going to maybe not completely disregard it. You might go, oh, I'm going to stay away from that person. So you're still regarding it, but staying away from me is not what I would want you to do. I want you to listen, and I want you to absorb in what I have to say, and I want you to succeed. And so if you're starting to trust me, then my ethical appeal is working. If you're not trusting me, then I guess I'm doing something wrong, and I'm probably teaching the wrong class. I hope that's not the case, because well, if nothing else, it is my livelihood, and there's my emotional appeal. I need to feed my family, so this class is helping support our house, our food on our table, and other, our car insurance, our home insurance, all kinds of things that my family needs, and this class is helping provide that. If I didn't have this class, we'd be tightening our belts super tight and then starving, maybe not starving, but at least maybe starving. Who knows? If I didn't have any classes to teach, or I'd be relying on government aid for our income, and then we would be limited on what we could get, and I don't know. But if you feel that a little bit of sympathy for me, or for someone who doesn't have a job, that would be me if I weren't teaching you. So that's kind of part of an example, at least, of emotional appeal. And that's real. I mean, I really do need this job. So hopefully you understand that I'm doing my best to try to teach you so that you succeed, so that you can have a job, not necessarily like mine, but a job, so that you can support your family or help contribute to support your family one day, or better off than you are already doing so We want you to do really well with your family, not just the minimum. We want you to really thrive. So hopefully you understand how the emotional appeal works. You don't want to overdo the emotional appeal, though. If all I did was rely on, if I had an argument and it was nothing about trying to make you feel sorry for me, that's, in education at least, that's not a very good strategy. You're going to need evidence, trustworthy evidence, and that goes back to the ethical appeal. If your evidence is not trustworthy, then that's flawed. And your ethical appeal is not working. But so that's another type of ethical appeal, is trustworthy evidence. And in academia, that's probably the main one you want to worry about. If your teacher notices that you're using Wikipedia, which we will frown on, not that you can't find good information on Wikipedia, but if we tell you not to use it and you're using it, well, then you're not following our guidelines, and you're disregarding what we say. And when you do that, then we don't trust you to fulfill the rest of the requirements. So we're looking at it more critically. So, all right. So the other one is logos, or logical appeal. And so we're gonna look at ways that you can use logic. Deductive reasoning is what we generally do in the Western civilization, Western thought. And induction is essentially what I like. Inductive arguments, but in Western thought, we'll start with our main point, so that everybody knows, any of our listeners are going to know what we're going to be trying to prove right from the beginning. Deductive reasoning, start with your main point, and then you flesh it out with evidence and reasoning. In inductive reasoning, we are going to start out with our evidence and reasoning, and work toward enough. We build up our evidence and reasoning, and then we lead to our main point. We do a combination of all of that in all writing, but I think in general, Western thought uses deductive reasoning. Anyway, so we're going to be looking at using and identifying all that type of stuff. Hey, I think that's almost our whole video. Last thing is the assignment, though. Let me put that on a separate video. All right, look for that.